Hi, Claire. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your thesis statement in your week 3 writing assignment. So as a whole, I think that you have some really good working ideas here, and I can see what you want to do with May, and I think that it could work. But I want to talk to you about some things about organization and clarifying your argument to make sure that you are clearly expressing a good working thesis, or sorry, a good thesis statement, and that you're providing enough context for the reader. So, you say here in the introduction, the importance of the man who is put in a cage is very high. You say the story paints a good picture. It applies more than one thing. The audience can be this group, and the story, it tries its best to persuade the audience to speak up for themselves. So I see a lot of good working ideas here. But what's really missing from the introductory paragraph is all of the plot details that the reader needs in order to understand what you're talking about. But when I come down here to your second paragraph, this is a phenomenal summary. It is very clear. It's detailed. It's logical. All the sentences progress really well, one into the next. This is perfect. So I wonder if this idea can come up here and become the summary of your story, if that makes sense. Because really, all you're doing here is summarizing. I wouldn't consider this a key point at all, because all you're doing is capturing what is happening in the story, and that's what we're really missing from this first paragraph. Okay, so if you brought this idea up here, I think the reader would get a better sense of what the story is about and would be able to follow more clearly your ideas here. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the ideas in this opening sentence. You say the importance of the man who is put in a cage is very high. I I think what you're trying to say here is that there's a deeper meaning to the story, or you're trying to say that the story is really important. But the way that you have this phrased makes this a little awkward. So, high usually indicates, you know, something that something to do with like distance, right? In terms of it's high off the ground, it's low off the ground, for example. But we don't usually say that the importance is very high, right? So but we can suggest that idea, but you just need to be more concrete. So I get the sense that what you're trying to tell me is that, like I said, that this is an important story for a reason, or that it's an important story for a specific group. But the way that this is phrased now, it doesn't quite work. You're not quite fully capturing that idea. So I want you to play around with this description and see if you can capture this idea more clearly. You say the story paints a very good picture that I believe everything can take something from. I agree with you. But note that this sentence is so broad that without all these good descriptive details here, the reader's not going to be able to follow what you mean. So I think you need to bring, like I said before, this sentence is the reason why you need this descriptive detail up here in the first paragraph. Um, in terms of the thesis, I think that you're getting there, but you're not quite there yet. So I'm taking these two sentences um, as your thesis. So you say, in the story, it tries its best to persuade the audience to speak up for themselves. I find that in this story there are many people put into cages. So I wonder if you can find I can't talk, sorry. I wonder if you can find a way to combine these ideas more clearly to get a clear thesis. So first off, don't anthropomorphize the story. Talk about the writer. So in the story, it's May who tries to persuade the audience. So you say he tries to persuade his best. You're being a little broad there. So maybe what you want to do is talk about the metaphor of the cage, right? Because you're saying that there's more than one cage in this story. And you're right. There's the literal cage, but there's also the metaphorical cage. So think about how you combine these ideas together. Through May's use of the cage metaphor, he persuades the audience to speak up for themselves, to fight against their own cages, to speak out for those who are oppressed. Does that make sense, what I'm suggesting here? So you've got a lot of good working ideas, but it's trying to nail them down more concretely so the reader can follow them with ease, right? So then I think if you're able to more concretely talk about how the cages are what persuade the reader to act on this specific thing, right? Notice that like your key ideas are gonna, like this one here in your second paragraph, is going to be more clear for the audience, right? I do think it's worthwhile for you to talk about the physical cage in full paragraph, and then you can transition into talking about the metaphorical cages as well. I'm just saying you skipped over it here, but I would take the time to talk about it in depth in the paper too. So I think you're on the right track. Just a little bit of tweaking with your thesis statement, and some changing your organization around a little bit, and I think that you'll be able to get there. All right, thanks.